Welcome to the NLP View with your host, Donna Blinston. Each week, Donna will explore how the techniques of NLP can help improve your personal and professional life. And now, here's your host, Donna Blinston.
Hello and welcome to the NLP View. My name is Donna Blinston. Today's guest is Keith Hern, author of the best-selling book, Bangers and Mash, How to Take Throat Cancer, Chemotherapy, Radiotherapy and Win with the help of an NLP coach. Neuro-Linguistic programming, NLP, looks at the stated connection between the neurological processes, hence the neuro, our language, linguistics, and the behavioural patterns that we have learned through experience, the programming. NLP is an ever-evolving field that continually expanding further and further into the mind and body link, looking at the role played by our limiting beliefs and our internal conflicts, and the role that they play within illness and dis-ease. NLP provides techniques to help us resolve those conflicts, to clear any blockages, and to set the goals required to get people through any circumstance. In Bangers and Mash, Keith Hern explains exactly what it's like to hear those words, "You have cancer," in a frank and honest way, from the grim reality of chemotherapy and radiotherapy treatments to the pure, heartfelt moments of warmth and kindness. Keith explains his fight with throat cancer and how the chance opportunity of working with an NLP coach helped him to win. So I would like to welcome to the show the inspiring Keith Hern. Hello, Keith.
Hi, Donna. Thank you very much for that introduction.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good. Can't complain. All going well.
Keith, I feel really honoured to have you on my show today. The way you've turned your experience into such a positive and empowering story that will and has helped so many people already is, well, I take my hat off to you. You very much are the light at the end of quite a dark tunnel for so many people, and it's an honour for me.
Oh, thank you very much. It's been a fair old journey, I can tell you.
Yes. I've read and loved your book and all the stuff that I read about you on the internet and through your website. And the more I read and learn about what you're doing, the more I think it's respect. As much as anything, I have for what you've been through and how you're using that for other people. Keith, could you tell us about yourself? Because what I've read so far is so humble and honest, and it's that I want our audience to understand a bit more about.
Sure. I mean, if we go back a few years, when I was first diagnosed with cancer, it was 5 years ago. But before that, I had, 22, 23 years as a salesman in umpteen different companies. And I made a midlife career change. I made redundant twice. I thought that's enough of corporate. I can't handle it anymore. I'm going to go and do something that's more interesting. And and I sort of, I've always been interested in traveling. It's my big passion. I think it's about 68, 69 different countries I've been to now. And wow. It was on a holiday in Australia that I went to the photo exhibition by a photographer called Peter Lick. I'm just simply blown away by his photography. And so I'd love to learn how to do this properly. And I was made redundant. I started to go on training courses whilst looking for another job. Took 8 months, got another job, lasted 4 months. So I was like, okay, time to go and do the photography. So I started a business of my own. And just over a couple of years later, I was standing in the kitchen chatting to my wife. I'd just come back from the game of golf. And inadvertently, sort of fell on the side of my neck. And she saw me feel this really, very, very small lump. And said, "What is it?" I said, "Well, I don't know. You better go and get it checked out." She said, "Yeah, okay." So I went to the doctors, and they took a look and said, "Well, 95% sure it isn't really anything to worry about, but we're not 100%, so we want to send you to the ENT specialist, ear, nose and throat." And he had an examination and basically said pretty much the same thing. Said, "Look, it looks all right, but I can't be 100%, so I want to send you for a biopsy. Now, so I go for the biopsy, and there's a wait to get the results. Now, by this stage, I'm starting to get nervous. And my daughter was running in one of these Race for Life things with a friend of hers, and I went along to watch. So I think it's breast cancer. And all these runners had little signs on their back saying "in memory of," and my dad and my sister and all that, and kind of goosebumps all over the place. And it was quite nerve-wracking. Anyway, it was a Friday morning. I was at home processing the photos from a recent job. And the phone rang, and it was a hospital, and they said literally something like, "Oh, Mr. Hern, your test results are in. We've arranged for you to go and see the consultant at 1 o'clock. I looked at my watch. It was about 11:30. I said, "Well, I can't. I've got a business meeting. Can't we do it some other time?" And his only response was, "No, you don't understand. Go to hospital." So I thought, well, yeah, okay. But when I put the phone down, 1 and 1 made 2, and I just thought, oh my God, I've just been diagnosed with cancer. There's no other reason for them to send me there that quickly. No. And I was in my office and just sort of kind of sunk to the floor, shaking, absolutely terrified. And that's where it started. I hadn't been ill. The last time I'd had any time off work was in 1982. I had a few days off for tonsillitis. And this was 2007. So it's 25 years since I've had a day off sick. So that's how it all began. And do you want me to say how I met the NLP coach?
I would love you to tell. That was going to be my next question, actually.
Okay.
How did you meet Helen?
Well, I get a lot of my business from small business networking groups locally. I'm a firm believer. I was 25 years in sales. Makes me a firm believer in just people will buy people. And so you strike up a rapport with somebody. At one of these networking groups, I had a very quick chat with this lady near the end, chatting briefly. She said, "Oh yeah, I'm a coach." And I said, "Oh, you not by any chance do any sports psychology, do you?" She said, "Well, I can do. It's not my mainstream, but why?" And I said, "Look, I've been a golfer all my life, and I've just been playing worse and worse for the last 10 years, and I'm sure it's in between my ears." She said, "All right, look, I'll give you a free half-hour session by phone, and then decide what you want to do after that." Well, between that conversation and the meeting, I was diagnosed. I sent her this email that said, "Helen, love to keep the appointment, but you can forget about the sports stuff. I've just been diagnosed with cancer." And I got this extraordinary message back, which was very, very blunt and to the point, but it's just that's what she's like. She said, "Bollocks to the half an hour. You've got a full 3-hour session. Get on the phone. Let's get moving." And I thought, I can work with this woman. I can work with this woman. And we kicked off pretty much immediately. So that's, started working with her, I don't know, probably the following week. So probably a couple of weeks into, or even a week or so after diagnosis, we had our first session. And it's a completely new, it's like a dark art to me. But fascinating, absolutely fascinating.
Do you mind sharing any of the work that you did with Helen with our audience?
It's really difficult to explain what you actually do. I tried to, my wife would see me disappear out the door. I'd come back about 3 hours later. I'd always come back really bubbling and enthusiastic. She'd go, "Well, what have you been doing?" And we just don't know where to start. It is difficult to explain, but she's sort of, we just chat to begin with. And every now and again, you go and ask some sort of tangential question. And then she end up taking me outside of my comfort zones, for want of a better expression. And when she's looking to explore something specific. And I can't remember what she first said. We started to work with the first technique she used was some visualization. And she was just interested in finding out about me. And I think one of the things was, she started to ask about self-employment. And I said, I'd tried it once before, many years ago. And, I was hopeless at it. You know, it was a failure. She said, that's interesting. And she said, right, okay, imagine there's a screen up on the wall in front of you, and there's a photo of you 20 years ago, whenever it was you were doing it. What would you say to your old you? That you weren't doing it right, you were lazy, you didn't do this, etc. And she said, was that harsh on yourself? Was that much for self-critic? I said, well, I don't know. I haven't thought of it like that, really. It's just, things haven't worked out. And you can't really blame anybody else. And so things like that, and that's where it all began. And once you go off and we did things like timeline therapy, it was really the visualization stuff and the way she managed to get me to talk about it and then bring it round, so she put a positive spin on it. I mean, it was tremendously, the early bits were tremendously helpful because I was in such a mental mess after diagnosis. I mean, it was just so traumatic with the diagnosis. I can't begin to say that. And the only time I'd ever been into hospital was to visit elderly relatives who weren't very well. Now this time it was when, I got used to going in for all the tests and stuff. And then when they say, right, okay, we need to start with an operation, all of a sudden it's me that's going to be cut open. You think, I'm sure about this. I was talking through Helen, and she came up with these ideas and said, Helen Oakwater, by the way, all you guys that are listening, brilliant lady. And she said, okay, well here's, have a look at some CDs by a lady called Susie Smith. So self-hypnosis type stuff. And
brilliant
one of them,
lady. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. And one of them was the one that I really got into using prior to going to hospital was called, something, it wasn't called Preparing You for Hospital, it was called something, Preparing for a Medical Intervention.
The medical intervention.
And it went over my head to start with. And when I listened to the tape a few times, I said, that's an odd title. And I thought behind it and said, no, actually, what the implication of that is that what this is going to help do is let the body do what it does best, which is look after you. It's kind of a weird way of putting it. But I listened to that through the CD a lot while I went to the hospital. And it was just brilliant because it's, helped prepare me mentally for what I was going to go through. And it meant that I was much more relaxed when I got to hospital. And, that's kind of the start of where we started working together. This is 5 years ago. And I worked with her all the way through the first time I had cancer, saw her a few times the second time I had cancer, and I just started going to see her next week. So, as you know, I was diagnosed again in August this year. So NLP is alive and well, and I use it a lot when it comes to stuff like this. Because it's really, really, it's powerful. It's very difficult to explain.
It's very powerful, and as an NLP coach myself, I work with and have worked with many clients, supporting them through in a similar way that Helen would have supported you through the cancer, both helping you cope with what you need to cope with from what's going to happen to you from the medical process, and then also looking at the causes of where the cancers come from. So where you explain about how the body looks after itself, there's a lot of work, there's so much work done now about the mind and body link and about organ language and how our relationships and what's happening with us and how we hold our own beliefs or limiting beliefs, as they're referred to in NLP, about ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. It's
amazing how people hold them, and that one of the cause with NLP is how your unconscious mind takes everything as the truth and very virtual. So if you're saying things, just like, a simpler example would be like psoriasis. A lot of the clients that I've worked with that previously had psoriasis, when you listen to their language, they're always saying things like, such a thing gets under my skin. something is irritating me, I just want to scratch that out of my life.
Oh,
the kind of language that they're using is directly related. And that is an example of how people who've suffered a loss of a child or the fruit of their groin, whether that be a child or their business, a car, a property, their marriage. There's a lot of links and research now that is showing that people who've gone down those journeys and how they're identifying with what's happened and how they're blaming themselves can manifest itself as a cancer, as a tumour, particularly on the groin, especially work that's been done within testicular cancer and ovarian cancer. It's interesting when you start looking at the beliefs that people have formed and the decisions that they made that day when they created that belief and how that has impacted on them, both in their personal life, professional life, but also their internal life and their body. And
she'd quite often pick me up on a phrase or something which I really think would be innocuous, and so no, don't say it like that, and to put a good spin on it so it was more positive. If you're going back to the first example, don't criticise yourself. Put it in a different way so it's positive. Because yes, it's a mind-body thing. If you say that, then it's like the left brain takes it on board and uses it as a firm belief, and it's not. That's not really what you're trying to do. But it's. I just found it fascinating working with it. I've never done anything like that before. I mean, the whole cancer experience it's been a hell of a journey, but it's been a huge learning curve as well.
Yes. Yeah.
One that hopefully I can leave behind now.
And that journey for you is that's one of the beauties of NLP. It's not just the journey that you've had and that you've been through. It's the journey that it's now placed you on. Can you tell our audience about the amazing work that you're doing with the live talks and the public speaking that you're doing, where you're telling your story and the reality of it, and really giving people an insight that as nurses we tell them what we can tell, what we think we can tell them, but it's not always, I suppose, half maybe the nurse not wanting to tell too much, but also.
It's also good. Okay, I'll give you a quick resume of what happened there. Going back to that first time, I mean, I started writing. And by the way, I had absolutely no qualifications whatsoever to write. We have an exam over here for us oldies. It used to be an O-level. If you take it about 15, I got the lowest possible mark in English language. So I have no pedigree for writing. But I started.
You've done an excellent job.
Thank you. I started writing because when I was first diagnosed, the thoughts that were going through my head were really doing my head in, and the only thing I could do was write them down as a means of trying to stay sane at the beginning. Then as I started to get involved in hospital and treatment and all that kind of stuff, I just continued writing because and actually while I was attached to a chemo machine with days on end in hospital, it gave me something to do and also to keep my mind occupied, because when you're in hospital, in cancer hospitals, there's a lot of not very pleasant sights and sounds. It's very easy to go down to an even more negative spiral. But I started writing, and I said to Helen in one of our sessions, I said, I think I'm going to write a book about this at the end of it. And she just laughed and said, who the hell are you? I said, oh, steady, what do you mean? She said, no, you're not famous. You've never done anything. She said, you'll never get published. Why don't you stick to what you're good at? Photograph your treatment. I'm not aware of anybody that's done that. And I thought, oh, what a cracking idea. So I continued writing about it, and also took the camera into hospital whenever I could. And the nurses were always pretty much, if they had any time, game on to photograph me coming out of scanning machines or having my radiotherapy mask made or anything like that. And so I continued doing that all the way through the treatment in 2007. And I was going to go on. I saw an advert on the wall in hospital saying fundraise for the Royal Marsden, go trekking. And I saw that at just about my lowest point and latched onto it. I'm so going to do that. And something else to give me, reminds me what a couple of tips she gave me, which were hugely useful. Set a goal, the other side of all the treatment, as a target, of which there were quite a few. And so I went on that trek, and I raised £7,000 for the hospital. It was kind of my way of saying, well, thank you very much, guys, for getting me through this. And the trek would become the last chapter in the book. And because I'd never published anything before, I hadn't got a clue. I started making some inquiries, and the general consensus was, forget it. Another book about cancer. There's so many of them. Who are you? What have you written? It won't work. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to go and try it myself if that's your attitude. And I linked up with somebody who specialised in helping people to publish books. And he said, look, I've got to agree with some of what you've been told. Because it was a diary to begin with. He said, publishing it as a diary when you're not famous is a waste of time. So he said, I've read your book. It's fantastic. We need a theme. And I said, well, it's got to be food then. Because there are various times through this, because it's head and neck cancer, there are various times when you've got to starve before you're going into various scans. You've got to eat for England, well, or wherever. That's what you're told at hospital before you start radiotherapy. And then when radiotherapy kicks in, you lose the ability to eat, you lose the ability to taste. And I had 2 months when I couldn't eat. And then, so that's how used that as a theme. And he said, okay, we need something to call your book. So I went through various things, and I said, what about the first mouthful of solid food I had after not being able to eat for 8 weeks? He said, what was that? I said, bangers and mash, which I know means nothing in America.
No.
And he said, there's your book title. So that's how it started. And then did a little bit of local promotion, got interviewed in the local press and local radio. And then the big story broke about Michael Douglas going down with throat cancer. And I then hired a PR person to promote it because I had no idea, but I thought it'd be a good opportunity to promote the book. And I suddenly started being interviewed all over the place on BBC Radio and Talk Radio Europe. And then I ended up having a whole page in the Daily Mail, health section. That's a national newspaper in the UK, for those of you that are listening from elsewhere. And then I got asked if I'd go on to national television and talk on ITV's This Morning programme. So that's about something like 1 million viewers. So that's what happened there. And then I just got back into day-to-day work. And a lady contacted me. As a result of the TV show, I got contacted by a viewer through, I think it was Facebook. And this was a lady of about 34, 35 who'd just been diagnosed with throat cancer and was in terrible mental state, just like I was at the beginning as well. So she ordered the book, and we sort of swapped email messages. And I was saying, using a couple of tips that Helen had given me to help me try and stay positive, like, view it as a journey. You'd set a destination 20, 30 years into the future, whatever you like. I said, all right, becoming a granddad. He said, right, that's your objective. This is like, just treat the cancer as a little detour, like if you're going from A to B and you're driving and you come roadworks or an accident or something. And you will get back on track later. I thought, well, that's cool. Well, that worked quite well. And also put it in perspective, because cancer can so easily take over your life.
Yes, it
he
can.
said, put it's 6 months treatment in an 80-year life. And things like that is, okay, that's cool. Right. So anyway, this girl, then she recovered, and I met her, and she said, it was great. It was very emotional to meet her, actually. And I said, would you mind putting a few words down as to what you thought of the book? Was it useful? Was it helpful? And actually, I was just checking my website. This testimonial is not on the website, but I'll read you a bit of it. She said, here goes. Some people carry the Bible. Some people carry the Quran. I carry bangers and mash. That's what I believe in. Bangers and mash helped me through my emotional roller coaster. I remember the day I saw Keith on ITVs this morning and listened to every word, and I knew I had to read the book. He tells you everything about PET scans, CT scans, chemotherapy, and radiotherapy are all there. He was my lifeline. I owe Bangers and Mash so much. It gave me strength. It gave me my smile back. It helped me step by step to beat cancer by not giving up when I was ready to. Now that's pretty awesome as a testimony.
That's amazing, Keith.
And
that's what you get out of bed for.
That was when I saw that, and that was because those communications happened when I was going through radiotherapy the second time. So that would be 2010. I looked at that and I thought, I thought the book could be helpful, but you never really know, because I'm slightly biased, really, wouldn't I? But when another patient looks at it and says something like that, I thought, right, I've got to take this further. And that's when I started to talk on it. Roll forward now. Sorry if I've dragged on a bit.
No, you're all right. You're all right.
But, yeah, and then being diagnosed again this year, it was just like, oh, my God, I can't believe it. Because I just started to get somewhere with the speaking. And what's happened recently is extraordinary. I gave a talk in London to Adventure Talk, which is a bunch of hardened adventurers, people that row across the Pacific or skateboard across Australia, that kind of thing. And I gave a talk at one of their sessions, and the bloke videoing it came over and said, "Can I have a word?" I said, "Yeah, sure." I said, "That was extraordinary." He said, "You could hear a pin drop when we were talking. It's so powerful." I said, "Well, thanks very much." And he said, I've set up this organisation called inspiredlife.org, and it's all about inspiring kids to set themselves goals and achieve beyond what they would normally achieve. And said, "We're looking for speakers like you." And I said, "Yeah, sure." And the idea was then to move into, so he's got a contract with the council. So it's a brand new setup, and just done a couple last week. And the idea is then to move into the corporate speaking world. So that's moving. And then I talked to
people. Are all these details on your website, the address that you could give to our audience so that they could get in contact with you? So I'm aware that our half an hour is fastly coming upon us, and I want to make sure that everyone can get those details and where to get a copy of your book and how to contact you and your social media contacts.
Right, okay. Apologies, I've been talking too much.
No, that's okay.
The website is called journeythroughcancer.co.uk. The blog I write is, my photographic website is www.keithhern.com, which is KEITHHERN. The blog that I write, and I'll be doing another one the next day or two, is keithhern.com/blog. My Twitter handle is Keith Hern, all lowercase. And the other thing is I'm now working with one of the big insurance companies over here, medical insurance companies, as a patient expert. So I've been running phone-ins for them and everything else. But the real area I'm looking to get into is big ticket speaking, because I know my story can help people.
It can, Keith, and it will. It's amazing work you're doing. And I just want to thank you again, Keith, for joining me today on the show. I can't believe how fast it's gone. There's so much to talk about, so you're going to have to come back, I'm afraid.
Well, thank you very much. If anybody wants to get in touch with me, or you can email me, keith@keithhern.com.
And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in today. If you'd like to learn more about NLP, please tune in each week, and also visit my website, donnablinston.com, where you can pick up a copy of my book, Psychobabble, a straightforward, plain English guide to the benefits of NLP. Thank you for listening.